You are tuned into a special player spotlight interview on the CS Podcast.
Welcome to another episode of the CS Podcast presented by the NUC NFL Draft Bible. As always, I am your host, Chris Shanafelt, and joining the show now is the 2016 NFL Draft prospect, the defensive end out of Division II's CSU-Pueblo. And of course, if you guys missed it on Monday, just a few days ago, we had Kieran Duncan, the wide receiver from CSU-Pueblo, on. So we got another Thunderwolf in the house. Again, this time he's the defensive end, Morgan Fox. And Morgan, we appreciate you taking some time this afternoon. We're 42 days away from the start of the NFL Draft. Can you take us through what your schedule has looked like? Since the last time you suited up for the Thunderwolves?
I started training down in Florida at Fitspeed, and had an opportunity to train down there with some big time guys like Sean Oakman, Chili Calhoun, and then after my time there, I came back to Colorado and attended my pro day at Colorado. Okay.
All right, I did not know that you participated in Colorado's Pro Day. How did that go? I mean, going in, did you have any jitters? Were you nervous at all? And then, looking back, I mean, are you satisfied with, how things turned out at that Colorado Pro Day?
It's a little nerve-wracking. I mean, it's like the biggest interview of your life, but at the same time, all you have to do is go out and run. I was pretty satisfied. I think I could do a little better in my 40, but I wasn't too upset about it. But with most of my numbers, I was fairly satisfied.
Okay, sounds good. And obviously, doing all this training, we hear so much about how guys' bodies can change so much as you guys try and get into track shape and obviously pull off the best pro day that you can. Can you give us what your current height and weight is? I mean, has your body changed much as you got ready for that pro day of yours? I mean, I see the CSU-Pueblo website has you listed at 6'4", 259. I mean, is that about where you're at right now?
I'm about 265, 267. I kind of float between 265, 267, and then they measured me at CU at about 6'3" even.
Okay. All right, sounds good. And I know that March 28th is also a big day. That's when Pueblo will be having their pro day. Do you plan on participating in that pro day as well?
Absolutely. Any opportunity I can to kind of get myself in front of some scouts, I'll definitely be out there participating.
And, of course, this time around, you kind of know what to expect heading in. What are some things that you're going to try and improve on? Or I know you mentioned the 40 time. Is that really the main thing that you're trying to look at and improve on?
Yeah, that's for sure the one I'm definitely trying to improve on the most. And then maybe get a couple more reps on my bench press, and then I think I'll be pretty satisfied.
All right, and what's some of the feedback that you've gotten? I mean, were you able to chat with any scouts following that Colorado Pro Day? Or I got to think scouts have been in and out of CSU-Pueblo over the last few years. You guys have, flushed out quite a few pro prospects, and now, of course, it's your turn. What's some of the feedback that you're receiving from some of these NFL scouts?
It's just been pretty positive. I mean, actually, almost all positive. They just keep telling me to work on my hips and practice being an outside linebacker. And, they said they like what I'm doing and they like my film, and it's just a matter of seeing if I can flip my hips and if I can play at the next level.
Okay, so outside linebacker has come up in discussions. I'm curious, what was your reaction when you first heard that? It sounds like that's something that you're, more than willing to try and give a shot at the next level. Is that something that you're kind of expecting to hear from some of these scouts, that they want to see you at outside linebacker as well?
Yeah, it's kind of what I've been hearing through the season when they came to the school and talked to us, and a lot of the guys were saying outside linebacker, maybe a defensive end, but I'm a little short for certain teams at defensive end. But outside linebackers came up a lot with how well I can move and in space and my athleticism.
Mm-hmm. Well, and certainly the production cannot be ignored. That's for sure. One way or another, I'm sure a team wants you to get after the quarterback, make some noise in the backfield. And I'm curious, Morgan. I mean, as I mentioned, CSU-Pueblo, a Division II program, but one of the best in the country. Obviously, you guys won the national championship just a couple years ago, and I do want to get to that in just a moment. But when did you realize that you had a legit shot to go on and play football professionally? I got to think that it's always the dream. If you play college football, I got to think you always want to play at the professional level as well. But when did you realize that you had a legit shot to further your football playing career at the professional level?
Honestly, when other people started asking me about it, like if I had any aspirations to play at the next level. And then, I kind of just responded with people like, yeah, of course. That's kind of why I'm here. Besides to get my education to get a chance. And then people kind of around were like, well, we think you have a shot. Coaches, guys around the community who had been in the NFL, who had trained people in the NFL, started saying that we think you have a shot. Like, just keep it up. So I kind of, when people around me started bringing it up, like it was more of a legitimate chance, and the pipe dream is kind of when it became a little more real.
Again, he's 2016 NFL draft prospect, defensive end out of CSU-Pueblo. Morgan Fox here on the phone lines on the CS podcast, presented by the NUC NFL Draft Bible, bringing you the names that you need to know first since 2002. Visit NFLDraftBible.com. And Morgan, you've been the starting you've been one of the starting defensive ends for the Thunderbolts since your sophomore year in 2013. And really, you went on to get better and better, not only on the stat sheet but on film as well as the years went by. What would you credit your consistent and really dominant level of play over the last few years to?
I think a lot of it has to come down to the way our program's built. Our program's built a lot on consistency and technique and hard work, and I think and competition. And there wasn't a day that went by down in Pueblo where we weren't competing over something. Could have been the smallest thing, and it turned into a competition of who can do this better, who can be more consistent, and it just worked out that way. And we had great coaches down there and great teammates that every day was an opportunity to get better, and we did our best not to waste those days.
Your junior year in 2014, you were, of course, a part of the CSU-Pueblo's national championship winning team. As I said, I was able to chat with wide receiver Kieran Duncan a few days ago, and I want to ask you, just describe what that season was like and when you realized that you guys had something special brewing. I'm curious to get a take from the defensive side of the ball because, and of course, not to take anything away from the offense, it was one of the top-scoring offenses in the country, but that defense was really something special.
I think we definitely knew we had something special after the Sam Houston game. We played West Texas, went out, dominated that game, but we knew that the big test was going to be Sam Houston State. They hadn't lost a home game, and I don't know how long it was. They went to the semifinals that year, a powerhouse FCS program, and then we went down there, and at halftime they had 1 yard of total offense, and we totaled out 8 sacks, and we had a real dominant win down there, and then I think that's when everyone kind of realized, like, hey, we got a shot at being a national championship team, and the season was definitely up and down. We had a real close game at Western State that we had to pull out at the end of the game that our offense did a hell of a job pulling out, and then we had the game we dropped at Fort Lewis. But then after that, we kind of came together and said, hey, our backs to the wall. If we want to win this like we say we do, we gotta start playing. And then all of a sudden, this playoff caliber team came out in the middle of the season, and we just peaked at the right time, and no one was going to lay down and die easy, and we rode that momentum all the way to the national title.
It's funny because Kieran also mentioned, some of the same games that you just talked about. Obviously a huge win at Sam Houston State early on in the season, one of the top FCS programs in the country, and here you guys are, a Division II program, upsetting them. And then he did mention that Fort Lewis loss. It kind of, gave you guys a little bit of a taste of reality, gather everything together and know that you guys got to give your all, for each and every opponent. And then from there, you guys went on to dominate and of course, defeat Minnesota State Mankato in the Division II National Championship game. And now looking at this past season, your senior year, Morgan, minus the fact that you missed a few games due to injury, I can't think of, I can't think that you could have thought of a better year individually to have. You racked up 52 tackles, 21.5 tackles for loss, 17 sacks, one forced and recovered fumble, as well as a safety. You actually led the country in sacks per game. How big was it for you to make a statement this year, not only because it was your last as a collegiate athlete, but you guys had to make up for a lot of lost production on that defensive line, losing both Darius Allen and Josh Brettel.
Yeah, it was definitely huge. I mean, we knew we had big shoes to fill coming into the season across the board, losing guys like Darius and Bradel. But I mean, it was definitely it was nice to know that like there was no drop off and that we could handle it. I mean, across the board, between myself, our nose guard Tony Campton, and our other end, we did a pretty good job of picking up the slack, and I couldn't have done half of what I did without those guys there. But I mean, the production level was nice. I mean, had I not been hurt, would have been a little better. I think I would have broke a couple more records, but I mean, it fell where it fell.
Mm-hmm. From start to finish, how would you describe your overall experience at CSU-Pueblo, playing for the Thunderwolves, which I got to think is the best mascot in college football, the Thunderwolves? That's absolutely great. Did you ever think that you would achieve as much as you did, not only personally but team-wise as well?
Team-wise, definitely not. I mean, I'm very, very lucky and very blessed to be part of the team. Not very many people can say their college career with a handful of rings, and especially a national championship ring. And, I mean, I can count all my losses in 4 years on one hand. And, like, as an experience overall, I don't think I could have got a better experience. And then individually, I think a lot of it attribute that to coaches and my teammates around me. And I don't think without the coaches and teammates I had that I would have had the same level of production that I did.
Yeah, and you mentioned as a team, you guys have certainly dominated the RMAC for quite a few years, to say the least. Again, he's Morgan Fox, the defensive end out of CSU-Pueblo, Division II, joining me here on the CS Podcast, presented by the NUC NFL Draft Bible as he gets set for the 2016 NFL Draft, just 42 days away from the start of the NFL Draft. And, Morgan, I want to ask you to give us a brief scouting report on yourself. I mean, what would you say is a strong point of your game, and what is one thing that you want to work on to get better at?
I would say the strong point of my game, I mean, with my production has been my pass rush over the last 4 years, and it's gotten better now. But aside from that, I would think it's my ability, my adaptability. I mean, I had to play across all three. I had to play nose, I had to play three technique, and I was able to be successful at all positions. And so I was able to adapt to different situations and play from almost anywhere on the line. But I think I definitely need to get better at maybe setting the edge a little quicker in the run game and recognizing certain things in an offense quicker than I do. But other than that, I mean, I think like I said, my strength would be my pass rush and my adaptability.
And is there any questions about your game that you want to answer? Is there anything that you want to prove to the scouts that'll be in attendance for that March 28th pro day? I mean, is there anything that you feel that scouts should know about Morgan Fox that maybe they don't know?
I mean, the hardest thing to prove, because I haven't really had an opportunity aside from 2 FCS games, is that I can play with the Division I talent coming out and compete with them and be successful against them. But other than that, I mean, that I'm strong enough and quick enough and mentally adept enough to play at the next level is really what I think I need to prove to scouts.
Okay. And speaking of talent, there is a ton of talent in the Division II ranks. Over the last 4 years, teammates aside, who would you say is the best player that you've had to go up against? I mean, whether it was an offensive lineman, a quarterback, a running back, was there anybody specific you knew heading into that week it was going to be a dogfight?
Aside from teammates, I mean, West Texas always had an offensive line that was like phenomenal. They usually had a ton of Division I bounce backs, guys who got injured, who started, and I mean, usually every time we played West Texas, they had an offensive line that was something. It was definitely a force. But I think the best offensive line that I faced was hands down West Georgia in 2014 in the playoffs. That was a straight dogfight.
All right. Yes, that sounds good. I know that they also have I don't know the name off the top of my head. I know they also have a prospect coming out in this year's draft as well, going through this process. So West Texas A&M and West Georgia sounds good. Looking back 5-10 years from now, Morgan, what would be that first play that pops into your mind? What would you say is the most memorable play that you've made throughout your time at CSU-Pueblo?
The most memorable play, I think, either blocking the field goal against West Georgia in the semifinals or getting a sack in the national championship will be the two that pop into my head first. Okay.
And yeah, of course, if it wasn't, who knows what would have happened if it wasn't for that blocked field goal. Of course, I don't know how I forgot about that, but that game against West Georgia there in the semifinals, that game was finished 10-7, if I remember correctly. So yeah, absolutely a huge impact on that game. And then, of course, the sack in the national championship game. Certainly cannot go wrong with either or. Now, Morgan, we're going to finish this interview. And, of course, I really do appreciate you taking some time this afternoon. We're going to finish this interview with something that I like to call the 2-minute drill. Some of these questions will be football-related, and some will be random questions, just about anything. You ready to knock some of these out?
Yeah, for sure.
All right. We'll start off with what is your favorite TV show and movie?
TV show would have to be Vikings, and movie would have to be Gladiator.
Oh, all right. Sounds good. Next question: Who would you say you model your game after? I mean, growing up, or even over the last few years there at Pueblo, is there anybody that you like to resemble your game after, or take bits and pieces and add it onto your game as well?
I try to take bits and pieces from everyone, but I really like to watch Aaron Donald when he was at Pitt, just how he worked his hands, and I really like to watch Justin Houston when he was with the Chief, or as a Chief, just because he how relentless he is in his pass rush and how he always gets after the quarterback.
Hey, and obviously two of the top pass rushers currently in the NFL. Cannot go wrong with either or Aaron Donald or Justin Houston. Let's say you had a plane ticket to travel anywhere you wanted. Where are you headed?
I'm probably headed to Italy, to the Mediterranean.
Okay. Hey, sounds good. I could go for some Italy right now myself, not going to lie. Here's one of my favorite questions to ask. It's always a fun one. Let's say you could, get a quarterback sack on any quarterback currently playing in the NFL. Who are you going to be going after?
Probably, honestly, would be Big Ben, just because he's a horse, and I'd want to say I have to big old Frankenstein.
Hey, sounds good, Big Ben. I get Cam Newton a lot as well, but all right, can't say I've never heard Big Ben, and obviously, again, as you said, one of the bigger quarterbacks in the NFL. Finish the sentence. If it wasn't for football.
If it wasn't for football, I would probably be in the military.
Wow. Okay. All right. And final question for you, Morgan. Again, your time is greatly appreciated. Let's say we got all 32 NFL general managers lined up and listening to this very interview. Why should they want the defensive end / possibly outside linebacker Morgan Fox a part of their squad?
Because I'm a hardworking, quick learning player. I'm very attentive to detail, and I pride myself on consistency and effort, and I'm a very technical player. So you can show me something, and I'll break it down 2,000-3,000 times until I figure out how to do it perfect, and then I'll try to perfect it from there.
That's awesome. Well, hey, Morgan, we appreciate you taking some time this afternoon. Congratulations on not only a very successful, to say the least, career at CSU-Pueblo individually, but obviously team-wise as well. Not many get to say that they, like you said, dominated the last 4 years as you guys at Pueblo did. But absolutely what you were able to do, not only individually but team-wise, and we're certainly wishing you all the best March 28th at the CSU-Pueblo Pro Day, and then obviously beyond that as you continue to gear up for the 2016 NFL Draft, man.
Absolutely. I appreciate the time. Thanks for having me.